Happy Wednesday. We're getting ready for another week of PGA. Was not here last week, and it sounded like Sheets gave out some good information. I know we have one of our normal guys, Carnes, in chat. Won 22K, which was a beautiful win.
Yep.
We're hoping to give out some of that same goodness this week. So, Sheets, any sort of overall takes or thoughts on last week before we get into the slate?
Last week I did okay actually. I had them really just tremendously good takes, including a low-owned Jason Day, my Abraham Answer at the top. English won the tournament. I had him in like 30-40%. And one guy who just kind of stuck in the little monkey in the wrench, had too much of. But I'm going to get my revenge by playing just even more of him this week. But this week it's going to be probably higher owned. But we're going to get to him in a couple of tiers. So this week, there's no MMA, so the money's got to go somewhere. So there's going to be probably some extra golf action for me. Also, kind of LOL about golf content, just a little bit. So one guy who I think is like the freaking best. So I was listening to Rick's analysis of the course, and then I was listening to others, and I have one source that spends like an hour talking about how this course it really favors driving and big driving distance because it's really wide open, and you want to really find golfers that hit it really far, and sometimes struggle with accuracy because it doesn't really punish accuracy that much. And then it was really funny in preparing for this. I went to another site which I really respect, and literally this is something that says I don't want to overquote, but it says it seems that accuracy matters more than usual. It is irrelevant how far you hit, and it favors smaller hitters like Brendan Todd, Vaughn Taylor, whatever it is. So you can't even get people to agree on the course, which is fine by me. But so golf content is somewhat LOL. So which is why I kind of do rely on the guys I rely on, and I rely on my numbers, and also rely on my numbers as a function of ownership, which is the most important. So I'm ready to go after it. One thing I will promise you is that there are going to be scores. It's going to probably be 20 under if at the worst. To win the tournament, you're going to need to make some putts to do that, and it's going to be fun. Last year, it was it's really funny. Not this last year, but the year before, it was really interesting because the winner of the tournament was not even in the player pool. The winner of the tournament was kind of like a late ad when someone dropped out, and he was not in the player pool. And he also wasn't even on the sportsbook's betting card. So the sportsbook made a fortune because the guy who won, literally nobody had. So that was Nate Lashley, I think. So with that as background, I'm ready to attack this Birdie Fest 25 under plus tournament.
It's going to be a Birdie Fest. That seems to be the one consensus that you can find out there everywhere. So let's pull up your screen and we'll go through our tiers, because I like you have felt a little bit like I was sort of losing my mind. So it kind of felt good to hear you say that, because I was going through my stuff too. And it's a lot of the same, people are sort of conflicting stuff, but the people I respect the most, I would say, tend to agree about it being a driver's course. So I'm with you. Which, speaking of which, you're going to have the most popular golfer in the top tier. Who do you like in this above 10K range? Let you start it off.
So Bryson is tough, he's tough. He's actually too cheap relative to his chance of winning. He's too cheap relative to the other guys. He's a tough fade, honestly. I mean, I probably won't play all. I mean, I won't lock him in or anything like that. But I'm certainly not going to fade him just because he's the most popular. And I think 27%. That's where I have him right now. I think that's probably low. I think he's going to be even higher than that. That's just my opinion.
Yep.
I actually don't mind the others though. I don't mind Webb. I actually have Webb as a based on value, rated a little higher than DeChambeau, which is kind of odd because of what we talked about. I do think that you need to have some kind of a driver's distance type of profile, which Webb does not necessarily have. But just because the field is weak, I think that he just has a decent amount of win upside in general. So I do like him. And then Hideki, I think's okay. I think Reed's okay. I don't really like Zalatoris all that much. But I do think this range is very, very fair. I think that all these guys in a weak field have a decent chance to win, and I think that I'll probably end up playing at least one of them in every lineup.
Yeah, and in the monster and like the giant field tournaments, I think if you do want to get a little different, you can try to skip this range, because I think that there's no everybody's going to have a piece of this range.
Yeah,
there's a lot of value out there. Everybody else, the guys below like 9K and below are basically similar golfers down to the guys in the 7K range, as far as I can tell. So I don't feel like it's a huge difference between playing those guys, which is going to force everyone to spend up. I have Bryce as my number one most likely to win, and I will probably be, I'll definitely be above the 30% that he's projected at or whatever.
Just speak up a little bit, Bobby.
Oh, sorry. I definitely will be ahead of the field on Bryce. I do like Hideki a little bit here, and I like Zalatoris. I know you're not crazy about him this week. I'm completely fine with going to a guy when I feel like, even though the ownership's got him, wherever about the same as these guys, he has a bad week, and all of a sudden everybody jumps off of him. It feels like more people are jumping off him. It feels like this would have, before the Open, that he would have been a lot higher owned here. I don't know. I think that I have interest in Zalatoris. You know me, I always tend to favor the young guys because I feel like they're sort of underrated in terms of course history and things like that, and people really don't know enough about them yet. So Hideki, Zalatoris, and DeChambeau are my top three. But like you said, Webb and Reed against a weaker field, it's hard not to have some interest in all of them. I may try to do what I said, though, and see if I can build some lineups without any of them, which would make me very high on this next range we're going to get into. Talk about a little bit about what you like in the 9K range. It's only
the 9K range is not my favorite this week. And because I base mine mostly on numbers in general, I have a feeling that what's going to happen, like you said, like if you do skip the 10K range, if you do like guys in here, I think this is going to be the range, honestly, that gets kind of ignored. So if you want to play anybody from here, you're going to probably get them at low ownership, and just only because it's free. Do I steal his pick here? Is what's the name? Rick was really into Jason Kokrak from a lot of different angles, and I was hoping that he rated higher for me. He rates pretty high, but he also rates to be pretty high owned. Maybe I have him about 20%, so I don't know if I don't think I'm gonna do it. I think Rick's gonna beat me on that one. My favorite on the range is actually someone I don't play too often, and that is going to be Sungjae Im. So he's my favorite, and he's actually relatively low owned in this range too. So I got him at about 10% there. The interesting one that that came out in one of the podcasts that fits the profile. You want a guy who can drive the ball, but may have had some difficulties getting it straight. And to go along with Bobby's, affinity to playing the young guys, we'll go right back to the guy Bobby played like quite a bit early in the season. That's Matt Wolfe. I think that he's very, very legitimate in here. And again, this is not going to be someone that shows up in my numbers all that well. But from a profile perspective and just from the upside perspective, I do think that he's definitely in play.
Yeah, the only more thing I worry about with Wolfe is that I feel like, coming off of the injury and the break he took, just from when he was really struggling, he played great at the US Open and then really struggled last week. He is a volatile guy who, when he's going to be owned, I would tend to go the other direction. But I think that you could argue that he could be priced in the same 10K plus range if a few different things happen had he kept playing all season. When he's on, he's as good as anybody, and he really has been as good as anybody when he's played. So I am sort of iffy on him. I have him probably at around I'm programming him at about 25%. I like being ahead of the field on Sungjae when people are going to be off of him here. So I have interest in him there, and I do love Kokrak. Unfortunately, I actually like this range a little better than you do. And I'm going to keep going back to Neiman and just my belief is that he's truly an excellent golfer, and he's always sort of in the mix and hasn't really had to break through performance maybe that guys like Hovland had. But I think that he's a terrific alternative. And another guy who every projection seems to get wrong, he's always lower owned by a lot than everybody projects, sort of the opposite of what Zalatoris was doing. So I sort of like the idea of going with Neiman here. I think he's my favorite in this range along with Kokrak. Unfortunately, Kokrak is going to be popular, so I'm going to have to get different elsewhere. But I do like Kokrak and Neiman the best, and Matt Wolfe and then Matt Wolfe would be my other two. I'm not going to touch Bubba even at low ownership. And I'm not finding myself with Keegan Bradley, and that may be something I regret, but I'm not doing it.
So for me, in the 8K range, my 3 favorite plays on the board are in this range, and it just I wish they were lower owned, but then again, I mean, you can't have everything. My top play on my board is Emiliano Grillo. He was the guy who was the one guy who, boy, I'll tell you, man, I needed to make the cut. He went into day 2 like +4, and he went on a freaking roll. And he was 1 hole away, and he just missed a putt on the last hole. And if he had made the cut, I mean, I'm telling you, I had some good 5 or 6 lineups at the end of that tournament. So he is my top play. He's going to be owned at maybe 15%, which is pretty chalky for an 8,200 guy, but that's just the way it is. And the other guy has a top 3 play, and I really thought I was putting one over on anybody, but so he's going to be chalky also. And that's going to be Cameron Tringali. He's going to be between 15 and 20%. The one guy who might sneak through under 10%, who I also have as a top 5 play, is Siwo Kim, down at 8K. I hope that he stays at under 10%. And those are my 3 of my top plays on the board are those 3 plays: Grillo, Tringali, and Kim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting thing to talk about. I want to just mention something real quick because I talked about it a little bit, but I didn't do the other show last week, so haven't really talked about it much with you. It was interesting to me that the way that lineup construction worked, that even as chalky as Jon Rahm was, and he won the tournament at the Open, that he wasn't on the millionaire winner lineups because of the way that things worked out. Now that was a different type of tournament where the guys who were expensive were the ones who were showing up at the leaderboard at the end of the tournament. So it kind of made sense why they couldn't figure out a way to get Rahm into those perfect lineups. But I just think it's an interesting thing to consider. So maybe not to that note exactly, but I really like Tringale. He's my favorite here, but I really think we've got to give more credit. What I maybe have been trying to focus on a little too much in golf is how guys will finish, how they'll play, versus the streak side of some of these golfers and the guys who can make eagles when other guys can't, the guys who can drive it, whatever. Really, you can get more points from a guy who finishes 15th than a guy who finishes 3rd.
Sure.
And it's not given enough. It's not talked about, I feel like, quite as much as I haven't paid enough attention to it, I should say. This is I like Grillo too. I'm fine with that, but just in the term of embracing sort of the variance of how guys have been, should we start considering just playing Phil a little bit more often, especially with the fans back? Like, even though he struggled after the cut the last 2 times, he did make the 2 cuts after winning the tournament, the last tournament he won. I'm starting to feel like maybe this is just kind of a mistake that he's just going to go completely unowned every week. He did. Sorry, he made 2 of the 3 cuts. He missed the 1 cut. I don't know. I'm just sort of considering it. It's the only guy you can really get crazy low ownership on in this range. We all know he has the upside to do it. He's obviously streaky. No one plays him. I don't know. I'm sort of wondering if maybe I'm crazy for considering Phil here. Do you have any thoughts on that? Am I like totally out of my mind? But why?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't quite get to him. I think you're I think the most relevant point that for me that you made there, which is an extremely relevant point, which we don't talk about as much in golf, is the profile of the players. Meaning that, we talk about this in basketball all the time. You have 2 different guys with the same median projection, but one guy is just going to go blah 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 6x every game, and another guy is going to go 9x 4x 9x 4x. And in GPPs, you want the 9x 4x guy. And we don't talk about that in golf enough. And I think that Phil does certainly profile in that way, that yes, I mean, he'll miss the cuts, and yes, he'll put up 9s, but he'll put up nines, then an eagle, and nines, then an eagle, and it'll beat, for example, like a Brandon Todd, who'll go bogey, par, 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 par.
Right.
So while I don't know if that's enough for me to play him this week, I definitely think that that's something to consider. What I thought you were going to say was to embrace the streak and to go right back with Jason Day coming off a good performance.
That was the other thing I was considering. I mean, it does always worry me with injuries, the guys who are struggling playing through it. But the fact that no one's going to play him after, you would have thought you would have needed him to win last week for a while until Sunday. It just feels a little bit odd to me that no one's going to do it. So I do have him on my list as well with the Phil thing. But I actually think my favorite play, other than, that's going to be a little bit less owned, is Siwo Kim, going again with my young guys here. And I just think he's a much, much better golfer than people give him credit for, and is at a very affordable price, can play on the long driving courses. I just feel like he's going to be overlooked. Homa is another guy I actually think the course would suit him okay based on a few things that I've listened to. But I don't know, again, he ended up a little bit more popular than I wanted him to be. And he's a guy who I don't mind getting off of when he's going to be popular as well. So I like those guys. I like Woodland a little bit, but I'm sort of struggling with that one myself. I do think he's played better golf than he had. He's definitely been in better form than he was earlier in the year. But still, you get a little bit of a streaky guy here too, even as of late. So what are your thoughts on Higo, by the way?
I actually played Higo, believe it or not. Those 2 times that I played the Euro Tour slates. Mm-hmm. So I actually knew a little bit about Higo before he came and he won a couple of weeks ago. It's a little tilting that I didn't play him. I'm not in there this week. I have him in the upper tier of you know what I mean, like maybe a top half of my pool, but I think people are gonna play him for a while, and I just don't think he's gonna be low owned enough for me to take a shot.
I understand that. I had him as just a guy who, talk about streaky and with a ton of talent who can really hit it. Yeah. He's one of those guys who fits that for me. But the one I'll be the most differentiating on will be Siwo, and I guess I'll have, let's say I'll probably have 10% of Phil, but Siwo I don't mind having in the 25-30% range. I really believe in this guy, maybe a little bit higher even, and he's probably going to be around 10%. So he's the guy who I like the most there. We're not playing Kisner. I know he's going to be popular. I'm not interested in Kisner personally, but I didn't know if I just wanted to. I
don't even have him barely on my board. So
okay, that's sort of where I'm at too. Is I just was surprised that he was going to be as high owned.
I see how. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at like the high owned guys that I'm just not getting, and that's one of them is Kisner. I'll just read a couple of these. Doc Redmond, I have him over 10%. Not played him. Sepp Straka, I have him at like 13%. Okay. So yeah, they're guys. Oh, and then I said, because he's not my numbers, like Matt Wolfe, I have him like just nowhere, but he thought he profiled okay. Yeah.
All right. How about the 7K range? You want to?
All right, here we go.
This is just all you. This is your favorite range every week.
I got 1, 2, 3. I got 4, 5 guys for you. All under 10%, all with no chance to win, but we're gonna be playing them. So these are guys whose names you've heard before, but I'll read them off. Chris Kirk at 7,400.
Yep. Matt
Jones at 7,300. Lanto Griffin at 7,500. Doug Gim at 7K. And then we'll go to a guy I haven't played. This is the one guy I haven't played, I don't think, and he's going to be probably the lowest owned of them all. I'll throw in Charles Howell III at 7,100.
Oh, wow. I was not expecting that one.
Yeah. Brandon Todd is fine, whatever. Harold Varner, maybe he's okay, but I'm gonna roll with those other guys.
All right, I'm gonna go back to my size and young guy thing again.
Yes.
I'm totally with you on Kirk. So I'm glad he was a guy I actually had preferred in my preferred play in this range. I'm gonna go back with Patton Kizzire.
Going with the general.
Let's do it, man. I don't care. I'm just gonna always be there for this guy. Another guy who you didn't mention, and I thought you were going to mention, was Sebastian Munoz. Just because, this is a guy who can drive it. This is a guy who we like to play, sometimes on these type of courses, and going to be really, really low owned. Same with Matt, and I love the Matt Jones call as well. I was curious. I was actually curious what you were going to say about him. So it's the lower end of this range that you seem to be more into. Can I ask you, like, let me just poke a couple guys who came up for me, and it's weird because it's very different than some of these other sports, the way people look at golf. Okay, and just the fact that Sam Burns was sweating him, and you know how much I love Sam Burns.
Yes.
What about Kramer Hickok off the second place finish when no one's going to play him at 7,600?
As he was finishing up the tournament, I was saying to myself, I said, self, what am I going to do when Kramer Hickok comes up in my conversation with Bobby? Am I going to go and say, well, I can't play him off a ceiling performance? Or am I going to say, you know, this guy actually looked really, really good. And people were expecting this for like the last couple of months.
Right.
Maybe this is real and the projections just are just not caught up to him. And he's probably a good play. So I was hoping that you would bring him up. But now that you have, I will just tell you the truth. He's not showing up, as I mentioned, in my numbers because, as I said, you know, we're not weighting the most recent performance maybe as much as we should. So I would play him as opposed to fading him. How about that?
Yeah.
I think
I feel like just at the low ownership. I mean, I just exactly what you said, and I'm giving a little bias to the fact that my guy Sam Burns was there sweating him, and apparently a very well-liked guy on course. I had a lot of time at the airport to catch up on my golf information, so I was reading a little bit about him. So maybe I'm a little biased, but I do like the other guys that, you know, I mentioned a lot, and this is a range where I'll be doing a lot of stuff. Did you mention Laboida, or who was the other one you mentioned? You said 7,100.
I didn't. What's his name liked him? Rick liked Laboida a little bit.
Yeah, I like Laboida, and Cam Davis I like too. I feel a little bit better about Laboida than I do Davis, but I like both of those guys a little bit as well, even though they're going to have a little bit of ownership. But if I'm going to play Hickok and Kazire, I don't need to worry too much about it. And Munoz, I can do that, leave a bunch of money on the table, and then just, you know, we'll do whatever. I mean, just yeah, ship it. So I really like this range like you do, even though we have a couple different plays. But I think the Chris Kirk, I can already tell you, is going to be in my main lineups just based on the fact that I had him as one of my preferred plays, and then you mentioned him. So that's going to be high up there for me. The only other guy who we didn't talk about, I'm just going to throw out one more name here. I know I don't do this as much, but I did a little bit more research. And what about Mackenzie Hughes at 0 ownership? Are we maybe okay? He had, you know, maybe it was a great performance at the Open and everything, and more it was a great performance in terms of actually fantasy points, more than it was even an actual number. I mean, he had the streaks. I think he had 2 of them. He had made a couple eagles, which no one else did. I don't know. I just sort of wanted to open that one and as a really low owned option, but I feel like maybe I don't want to get too spread out. He was another one that popped up for me. Oh, and one last one who you didn't mention. I do like is Joel Dahman.
Who?
Dahman,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have him. He's one of the next ones on my list.
Yeah.
I will mention before I forget that I did just look over at FanDuel for a second.
Yep.
The one guy for those who play FanDuel that jumps way up in my rankings on FanDuel and with no extra ownership is a guy that you just mentioned, and that would be Sebastian Munoz. You gotta pause this for a second. Sorry.
Okay. No worries. All right. So you were mentioning that Munoz on FanDuel makes some sense.
Right. So he's a very, very strong player over there if you play over at FanDuel.
Okay. And I have so many guys in this range that I was looking at. Doug Gim was the last one I'm just going to mention. We don't need to take it any further.
I thought I mentioned him.
Oh, maybe you did mention him. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That gives me a little bit, I have to do my little rule here. All right. So 6K range. I think that I'm going to go with my young guy thing again. I'm going to start this one off here and just say that I will probably take some shots with Patrick Rodgers at basically no ownership. Overall, much better form over the last while. I know he struggled last week. Doesn't not matter to me. 31st at the Open. At this price, I know we got other guys we like just above him, but you don't necessarily need to do it. I don't think we need to play these guys. We're playing all these 7K guys, but he is a guy I could see putting up a big number here. And then the guy who you always mention, who I don't like as a person, but I think he's a guy I'm considering, and he's really struggled the last 3 weeks out. But again, probably the wrong type of tournament, and probably you don't need to go down to it, but that would be Richie Werenski.
What's wrong with Richie Werenski?
as a person. We can talk about it there sometime. He
okay. I don't know anything.
Little bit of a spitting in the face of the George Floyd thing, in my opinion.
Oh, I didn't even know.
Yeah. But he was a guy who showed up for me this week. And then those were the two I had. I didn't really love anything else except for the one other guy, Austin Eckroat. I've heard a few of people I know who know golf very well who were very high on this guy. I don't know much about him. I'm probably going to do a little more digging before I build my final lineups, but he was another one that I considered in this range, although I didn't feel like you needed to go down to this range.
Yeah, I didn't think you needed to do anything in this range. Patrick Rogers, obviously, I think we just have to play a lineup with him every week.
Yep.
The guys that show up, the first 7K guy that shows up for me under 7K is just so you know, is Nick Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
And then Scott Piercy. And then I'll give you two more. They're in the top half at least. James Hahn and Matthew Neesmith. Oh, then Laird and Wawrinski. I just don't think you need it. But those are the guys that I like in that range.
Yeah, those all make sense to me. I'm going to bring another young guy. I mentioned one more young guy.
Okay.
Actually, he's not a young guy. He's just a guy who I like playing at no ownership, and has actually, he's made an excellent number of cuts and been near the leaderboard plenty of times. He just hasn't finished strong. And that is Will Gordon.
Oh, okay, nice.
So he's my off the board one. All right, let's. I have one more that I forgot about. This is what happens when it's a wide open field. I feel like, except for the top guys, I guess you'd say. Even that, I still feel like it's wide open. Vincent Whaley was the only other one I had.
Okay.
So all right, let's go. Who's going to win the tournament? I think we're probably going to be in a similar place here. So you go first on this one.
Yeah. So we could agree. So I will say DeChambeau.
I'll say DeChambeau as well, but just as like I'll take my next guy as being Zalatoris. Or you know what? I'm not gonna take my next guy as being Zalatoris. I'll take my next guy in the next range. Okay. I'll take Neiman as my other guy.
We know under 10. So under. So we're saying so under 10K, you got to make the top 5.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You want Neiman?
I want Neiman to win, and then I want to take.
Oh, okay.
And then if I can, I'll take Kokrak to make the top 5.
Okay. Yeah, and I will take top 5. I will take Sungjae Im.
Sungjae Im. Okay, I'm into that.
I think the last time he made a top 5 was the Eisenhower administration. We'll see.
Oh, can I ask you one more thing? So there was a funny thing on Twitter about Benny On, and he actually got himself in trouble. It was pretty funny what he wrote, actually. But he somebody tweeted out Benny On with the first tee out, the early first tee time again. It's happened like I don't know how many tournaments, but it's some absurd number of tournaments. And he said obviously he must be paying somebody to do this or whatever. He goes, I'm not, and I fucking hate it. That's what he said. And then he had to take the tweet down.
Wow.
Right why he took the tweet down. He said, I shouldn't be cursing like that, but I really hate it.
Wow.
But I don't know. I just thought it was funny. I'm always interested in like these guys' Twitter personalities.
It's interesting that he hates it too.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think it's because he's struggling. He probably hates everything. Yeah. So that's probably where it comes from. All right. So in the 8K range, who are you taking?
8K got to be top 10.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Oof. Who are you going for here?
I'll go Grillo. I mean,
that's right. Your Grillo's your guy, and I will take Tringale.
Very nice. And I think we can both agree that if you had to do another one, maybe Siwo Kim.
100%.
All right. Under 8K to make the top 20. So many choices.
Oh boy, should have just skipped.
Give one. Give your favorite.
I like to go out on limbs in general, as you know. I would say Chris Kirk I feel the best about, but I think that Patton Kizzire is the guy I'm going to side with here just to be fun. And not that they're going to be so different owned. I just don't think I actually really like both of them. So they're both probably going to be in my main lineup as of right now.
So you're going to go with General Patton Kizzire.
Yep.
I am, instead of Matty Ice Jones, just to keep up the nicknames, I will go the guy I haven't heard played before. I will go Charles Thurston Howell III.
Okay. I really am surprised about the Howell call, and I'm actually going to have to get some of them now because you've mentioned
just in case.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. under 7K is an easy one for me to take a shot on, which is going to be Patrick Rogers. That's my favorite upside.
Yeah, just to be true to the number, I'll go with to make the cut. Nick Taylor, why not?
All right, there we go. So Taylor, all right, it's on this week, guys. Let's crush it this week. I feel good about this one, and if there's anything I've got a problem with this week, it's just I haven't narrowed down my pool as much, and I need to figure out doing that. But I guess to recap, just what we talked about, the guys who I had as my priority plays, who you will see in the majority of my lineups are Bryce, Neiman, Kokrak, Grillo, Kim, Siwo that is, Hickok, Kazire, Rogers, Jones, Tringale, and Kirk. Those are my 12 or 14. That is.
If you want to know who I'm prioritizing,
yeah, prioritize.
Go to True DFS.
Oh, boom!
And you pull up sheets. You rank them by Sheets value score, and you'll know who I'm prioritizing.
I love it. All right, guys, make sure to check that out if you haven't already. And for Sheets, I'm Bobby saying let's have a great weekend. I hope everybody has a wonderful 4th of July, and hopefully one of our subscribers wins the big one, and we can celebrate together.
All right, take it easy.